Welcome to the Little Big Business podcast.
So I'm a celebrant, which is open to all, the sky's the limit. Dorset, like lovely character. She jumps on people.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the Little Big Business podcast. I am your host Danny Hollywood of Danny Hollywood Video, Drone and Photo, your international award-winning video and photo team. But as always, today's podcast is not about me, and I am super buzzed to have today's guest on. That is because this guest was the first ever person I ever mentioned this podcast to, and her natural enthusiasm made me go, I've got to do it. Had to do it. So, please welcome the wonderful Rebecca Cannings of Ceremonies by Rebecca.
Thank you.
You didn't know that, did you? That was a second take, because I didn't do the first one right, did I?
No, but it's fine.
How are you? You okay?
Yeah, really good. A pleasure to be here.
Yeah?
This is really good studios. It's awesome, as it would be, because you've done it. So,
Thank you.
Up in Barnstable, a long way from home for me, so it's more of a day out. But thank you for asking me.
Absolutely. No, definitely, because you're my first guest really that isn't in the Barnstable area or the North Devon area. So, tell everybody.
Where I'm from.
Yeah.
So started off in Exeter, which is where I established my business from. And then because I'm not in North Devon and I can't be part of your lovely group, I just thought I might as well move to the next county. So I went to Dorset, but I was born and raised in a little village called Broad Windsor, and I'm back there. So raising my daughters and establishing work that way. But weddings, I cover Bristol to Land's End anyway. So my business is a wedding and funeral celebrant. So most of my funerals are back home in Dorset, but cover the whole of the Southwest for weddings.
Cool. Nice. Yeah, absolutely. Because I think, just like me, you naturally don't have to be, that's where you're based, but naturally you're happy to travel where you're needed. So I do think 100% straight off the bat, you're underselling yourself a little bit there already. So this lady doesn't just do funerals and ceremonies for weddings. This lady is an absolute gem, yeah? So we've connected because we do a lot of wedding shows. And naturally, because of your area where you service, naturally, I've then obviously jumped on there as well, because when I'm trying to flap my wings and obviously expand my business, naturally, we've met there. Now, when I say I know lots of friends outside of my wedding network, you are in that bracket. I know lots of wedding suppliers. I'm not friendly with all of them, yeah? But you are a very big fan of.
Thank you. I think we connected early doors when I trained to be a celebrant, and then it took about a year to get the confidence to do wedding fairs. And my first wedding fair, I pitched up next to you, opposite you. And I was opposite the toilets, and I was like, I've been sold the worst pitch. And you were right next to them in the corner. And it's nerve-wracking, isn't it, when you're new to an industry? Yeah. All the suppliers were very much in their groove, doing their thing, but you were like welcoming me with open arms. Cool. I knew your company was professional because of your look, and I could hear you talking, but you talked about your family, your boy, your wife, and I just knew you were a real person. Yeah. And that is what I needed, because this is a work-life balance for me. And as a mummy, I needed to know there were other humans in the industry. and you came across as one, but I know better now, so. Yeah. And every time I spoke to my couples, I would be talking like, maybe doing a hand fasting demo on them, talking about something really intimate, and all I could hear is your roar of laughter, your cackle in the background. And I love it. It's so infectious. You can hear it at the other end of a hall. So.
Yes. I even have to turn my microphone down, because I learned from podcast 1 that I was blown out like crazy, because I know how loud I am. I did struggle definitely when I come from a sporting background, where I taught for 10 years. Now, naturally, I taught in an environment where I had big open spaces, and sometimes somebody has to hear me from across a certain area. So I had to be loud. When I then stepped away from that and I stepped into an office for the first time, I had to retrain myself, because my boss and colleague at the time was like, dude, you are loud. You're great, but you're loud.
You'd be a good celebrant.
Yeah.
Because in weddings, I don't take my mic link hardly ever because it's hard to connect in the same way. You need to have that next level of projection. So you'd be a great celebrant if this doesn't work.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, then I become the apprentice, don't I? I'll come to the master. Absolutely. Now, obviously, in what I do, naturally, I do work with so many different people. I've worked with a few celebrants, sorry. And I have worked with them. I'm finding them more frequent now, yes. I personally massively see the benefit, yeah. I do think naturally that here's the tricky one, isn't it? That you have religious ceremonies, vicars, priests, etc. And then you have civil ceremonies that are obviously registrars. Now, one is fantastic, goes a long time, but what I tend to find is I get a lot of bride and grooms who they aren't religious, but they want that longer ceremony, or it's simply that they can't do the numbers. Yeah, I shot one this year where they went and did a church ceremony because they couldn't fit all their guests in anywhere else.
Gosh.
Yeah, and the limitations there because naturally basically a civil ceremony won't happen anywhere else apart from a designated space. And that is where you come in massively.
We slot in. It's still really unknown. And the reason I do as many wedding fairs as possible is because I'm educating. Most people think I say that I'm celibate and not a celebrant. And I have to educate that that's very different. But no, it's like people don't know their options. So they think they either need a church wedding with a priest or a registrar, and both have their place and they're perfect. I'll never diss registrars. They're very different to what we do. And I was doing a wedding fair last weekend and I really connected with a couple. Hopefully they'll book with me. I'm still waiting to hear. And at the end of maybe a half-hour chat, he went, so let me just get my head around this. You do fake weddings. And I nearly cried. Yeah. I was like, no, because the registrar has... basically, to make a wedding legal, you have to say 4 declaratory words, lines. They need to be witnessed by 2 people, and that way their forms can be processed to make a certificate to make you legally binded. Yes. So that can happen anywhere. Yeah. So like a birth or a death, you have a registration process. It's admin. Yes. So I'm trying to educate my couples to think of it like that. So you're born on one day and then within the next 6 weeks you get registered. Yeah. That registry date is different to your birthday. When you die, and your family hopefully register your death. Yeah. But that's a different date. So when you get married, you register your marriage. You say the 4 declaratory words that aren't ceremony at all. And then you get someone like me who can make it completely unique and personal, do the vows, do rituals, do poems, readings, whatever, but tell your love story after finding out all about you as a couple. Yeah. That bit is what most people think a marriage is. Yes. And the 4 declaratory lines that most people don't even remember are the bit that makes it legal. Yeah. So in the UK, it's still not law for me to be able to marry you. So it's not a fake wedding, it's a full ceremony, but all my couples get married before in a very simple 2x2 ceremony, which is very minimal cost. Yeah. And then they get me in to do all of the ceremony and make it a lovely experience on the day. Absolutely.
Yeah. So naturally, when I'm shooting photos or video, I witness this all the time. Yeah. And if you were being absolutely black and white about it, you'd be like, yeah, well, we're already married and now we're doing this. It's not like that at all. It's not like that at all. All that first bit is just signing your name on you're signing a contract. Signing a contract to say, I am now married. Yes. You've not had a wedding celebration there. You've not celebrated anything there. You've not said to somebody, I love you. I want to, by this declaration, I want to share my entire existence with you. So obviously I am happily married, and 100%, I suppose that I came from a background that I didn't see too much weight in weddings and marriage. for personal reasons, purely because I came from a not so great stable background. However, if I was ever going to do it, it meant I felt very strongly about it. Yeah, and that's the way I feel about it entirely. Yes, I married my wife because I do physically feel like one of us is going to die before we split. Yeah, and that's what I want.
Yeah, that's lovely.
Yeah, I think that's quite cool. It's a bit old school.
I know, but that's what a registrar can't get across. So most people spend an awful lot of time and money and energy on the fluffy bits. So they go to a wedding fair, get totally overwhelmed. You're not a fluffy bit, you're essential, a videographer.
Yeah, okay.
Just so I'm not calling you fluffy.
No.
But there are lots of fluffy elements that you can spend thousands on, and they disregard the ceremony itself because they just assume that the registrar is going to... They don't think about it. They don't talk about it. So again, without putting registrars down, they have a set script to a point.
Yeah.
I know because I've seen that, and
Yeah.
I've been to so many weddings and had my own done in that way. Actually, I've had two. I'm very well qualified for this job. So I've had a church wedding with the vicar. Amazing. Had the registrar wedding, and I'm still single. But I do divorce healings as well. So it's like I need this experience. But aside from that, I think a registrar can't get the love story across. They're very limited to time.
Yeah.
They usually have multiple weddings on a day.
Absolutely.
And they allow you to have movement with the ceremony to a point, but usually you don't know who you're getting on the day. You haven't connected with them. With me and my services and most celebrants, we're independent, so we don't all do exactly the same. But I would meet my couple for 4 meetings before their wedding day. Their second meeting, I interrogate them to a point where I feel like a counsellor. So I unpack their whole relationship to a point where they start arguing, and it's great because it's like golden for me because I need to strip them back and see who they are.
Cool.
And I need the good, the bad and the ugly because when I tell their story, it needs to be their story, their words. I'm basically their voice.
Yeah.
So I'm quite boring as far as celebrants go. I'm here with my blazer on, but I am quite professional. I don't have a set image. I prefer to be a chameleon. So I'm doing a wedding next year, I can't wait, where the couple are Beauty and the Beast, and I have to wear a cloak and be a fairy godmother. I'm doing a pagan wedding where I have to wear another type of cloak and be barefoot. I'll adapt as long as I'm their voice telling their story.
Oh.
I don't have a theme, so that's not a unique selling point for me. I think actually my unique selling point is that I'm a chameleon.
Yes.
And most couples love that because it's not my day or my show. And sometimes it is more about who's conducting it, and I dislike that.
Love it. Properly love it. Yeah. Again, because we've obviously just went for coffee and had a good hour where we put the words to rights. This is where you will succeed and where you'll continue to succeed because you get it. I think, in my opinion, you get it in terms of when I talk about weddings. My only priority, I have 3 priorities on a wedding day. My bride, my groom. If I'm in the video, guys, my photographer. If I'm the photographer, naturally, don't worry. But they're my 3 priorities. The reason for that, naturally, is because they're the main event. And my photographer, it's important that they have a clean backdrop. They have a cooperative videographer. They have someone who... If I ever got a photographer that came away from me saying they'd had a bad experience with me, then I failed. Yeah. Because I think it's so... And I do see suppliers out there. I see suppliers out there that... I was only talking to a photographer a couple of weeks ago about a mutual supplier that we know, and saying that supplier makes someone's wedding about them. Yeah. And the day I make someone's wedding about me is the day I quit. Yeah, because it's not about me, and you're saying that for her wholeheartedly.
I think we said, didn't we, the celebrity are the couple. It's their day, they're the couple, it's all about them, the spotlight's on them. Now, I'm stood at the front, facing everyone. My bride and groom, or groom and groom, or bride and bride will never face me. They face each other. They're not marrying me. So part of my process when I get to know them is I explain to them the choreography and what I expect of them. I think it's very grounding when you're holding someone's hand because it's quite nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, one or both of the couple don't want to be looked at. They don't want it to be a show for them, but they have to accept it's their day and that everyone's going to be looking and listening. So I work a lot with energy and I do lots of Reiki and healing very selfishly, not for anyone else. And when I work with my couples, I very much work on their energy, and I like to create a held space where time stops and every single one of those guests is watching them.
Yeah. Cool. Right. With that, I want to go and get something because I want to show you this because this is lovely. Right. So obviously episode 1, Mark gave me a gift from his shop. Yeah. It was absolutely lovely. Now this beautiful woman has been and bought me. She got me a card and a gift. Give me 2 seconds.
We're just going to trump each other on gifts. So any future guests, you must bring Danny a gift.
Yes, but I like this one because this one means something to you. Yeah. And it's as lovely. So, bear with me, because this is your wheelhouse, not mine. So, this is a tiger's eye crystal. Yes? It's powerful and will release fear and anxiety. 2 things that, trust me, they exist. It will shield your space against negative energies. Now, luckily for me, I've not had anybody in here that exhibits any of those yet. And bring clarity and reason to internal conflicts. Now, if you ever needed something like that in your space, 100%. Love that. And that's wicked. And the reason why I like that is because I love what Mark got me. But that is super personal from you to me.
I give all of my, it's a gift I give everyone. So anyone who knows me will have a crystal from me. And when I choose crystals, because I work on energy, not in a spooky way, just in a feeling kind of way. If something feels good, I feel like if you project positive energy, you'll get it back. And in the past, I've dealt with quite bad anxiety and trauma. As I know you have, we've talked a lot.
Yeah.
So I, instead of accept the treatment I was being offered, I went and studied Reiki.
Yes.
And that's a very selfish act I do, and it allows me to see life very differently.
Yes.
So I rely heavily, particularly when writing funerals, because the person I'm writing for is no longer with us, I rely a lot on their energy.
Of course.
So that crystal is for you, and it's been chosen with you in mind because I know you don't have enough confidence. I asked Danny, I said, you're the best videographer in the country. And you were like, no, I'm not. And I was like, well, tell me who's better. And he couldn't. So you need a bit more self-belief. Everyone thinks you're super confident, but you're only human.
Of course, yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah.
My bride and grooms, they don't know this before they book, but they receive a crystal I choose specifically for them as part of their thank you present.
Nice.
So, but yes, going back to ceremonies and how they're different, registrars are very different to priests and different. It's the hardest thing at wedding fairs to just educate them and get them to know the difference, because at a wedding these days, you don't sign a registry book like you used to. You sign a document, and then that gets processed into a certificate. So now, when people know that, they realise that what we do has got a place. Yeah. So.
And let me dial this in for you so that you know what. So I'm going to talk on a very practical sense now. So I had a couple that have just booked with me in on Saturday, and they were just having a look through albums, and they were having a look through, because I don't have online galleries. The reason why I don't have online galleries is because there's a cost attached to them that if I don't have it, I don't have to pass it on to them. And then secondarily, it's privacy. Yeah, I don't have online galleries of someone's full wedding photography day because it's their photos, yes? And I don't want the general public to see every single photo that they have.
I like that. I was going to ask you about that. Is that because most photographers put everything out there?
They do. And I get that. And then you get some people naturally that they want to see that. And I totally understand that. I totally get that. But I do hit them with the idea that if that was you, Would you want me sharing all your wedding photos for someone else to see? Some stranger that doesn't know you? I don't like that, so I don't do it. Now, what they then asked about was, we didn't see a host of photos from the ceremony. And I explained to them, that's because that wedding that you had a look through the whole album, they had a civil ceremony. It was 12 minutes long. There's not a host of time to get a whole plethora of shots. If you have a church ceremony, you've got the other problem. So you might have an hour, but an hour where you can't move, and a vicar sticks you in a top corner and says, don't move. Or you've got churches have pillars in the way and humans in the way, and you can't get nice clean shots, or you're limited to where you can move. You bring the best of both worlds. You bring time, but you also bring that idea that we don't have to have a religiously led ceremony in a space that I can actually see the people that I'm trying to take photos or video of. Yeah. Yes? And that's definitely what you bring to the table.
So I'm a celebrant, which is open to all. The sky's the limit. So I don't care where you come from, what you worship, what your sexual orientation is, as long as you love each other, I'll represent you and tell your story and marry you. There is a movement, there's a group called the Humanists, and most people who meet me think I'm a humanist, which means against God, and that I won't talk about religion. But I would say 80% of my funerals have the Lord's Prayer. Yeah. So I'll talk about God all day. Yeah. And I'm on the fence with everything. I don't put my opinions out there because I'm that boring chameleon. What I feel and believe is irrelevant. It's representing the couple or the family of the deceased. Do funerals, so I must talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But my weddings, sometimes if the bride's mum is very religious, we can have a little hymn or a prayer. Yeah. So that's good because the sky's the limit with that. But going back to getting in the way of photographers and things, I write a cue sheet, as I mentioned before, to all of my key suppliers, whether that's a singer, the venue, the videographer or photographer, to let them know exactly what's happening in the ceremony, because with a celebrant you do tend to get rituals. And in mine I've done sand ceremonies where members of the family come up, or children, hand fasting ceremonies with ropes and ribbons. So there's so many more visual elements of the union that make it gold for you guys. But if you don't know when and where it's happening, it's ridiculous. So I turn up at a wedding a couple hours before the ceremony's due and make sure, not that I'm arranging, but sometimes I work alongside venues that don't choreograph everything. And it allows me to just make sure that everyone's doing the right job and in the right place.
Cool.
So
I like that. That's cool.
you work with the other suppliers, don't you, as a team, so you become invisible.
Definitely as always part of a photography or video team, you know, especially as the photographer, you're expected to run the day. So it is nice that there's a portion of the day that you aren't in control of, that you actually then trade off and give the reins.
And also know that I'm going to step out of your way. So when the couple tie the knot with the hand fasting, I've already long gone. I'm not in those shots. I don't want to be. I want one shot of me in the ceremony because it's great for a keepsake, but it's not about me. But I'm there, so it's hard to get out of the way.
Of course.
So it's kind of like trying to think for you, but also do the right thing.
I do always get this when I'm just in video and my photographer's like, right, you're being so cooperative to do it one way, but I'm going to be in your shots. And I'm like, but as a photographer, you're a staple of the day. As a celebrant, you're a staple of the day. Yeah. So you being in my video doesn't cause any conflict because you should be there.
I know.
Yeah.
But I don't.
But I get what you mean. You're not, because FYI, we talked off camera about this. I had an incident with a celebrant, not this legend at all, where we had a chat. I was the videographer and my photographer was someone that I'd never worked with before, in a narrow space where there was no runoff, so we can't escape. So it's aisle or top. Me and the photographer had the discussion that she would take the top, I'd take the back. So she gets clean and I get clean images. And the celebrant was involved in this conversation and then didn't have them face each other. So then my photographer, who stood right in my way the whole time, and I'm literally having to climb on people's laps to get shots.
You get one chance, don't you?
You do,
it's so hard.
It was It was not great, but I'm not putting that on you. I've worked with multiple celebrants and it's awesome. Yeah.
I think there's so much more for you, and also usually more reaction from the guests.
Yeah.
I try and have, even in my funerals, lots of laughter and tears.
Yeah.
Because the same with funerals, I'm telling a life story in a funeral, and in a wedding, I'm telling a love story.
If we think about the reaction that a speech would get, yeah, the speeches get hilarity and laughter from all the guests because they know the couple's story. You get to know the couple's story. So of course you can do exactly the same thing. Whereas a civil ceremony, like you say, they run by the numbers. You do get different variations. Yeah. There are a few that go a little bit outside of the box. There are some that stick completely to the box. Yes. And again, I had a civil ceremony, so I'm not dissing them. It's absolutely fine and it works for certain people. But in my defense, when I got married, you didn't really exist. Yeah. Because videography hadn't kicked off. So I didn't even exist. Videography didn't kick off until actually I'd got there.
We started in Australia like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's slowly kind of dribbling over.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I still think it's going to take ages before people know we're an option.
Yeah.
Because everyone I speak to is like, I'd never even heard of you.
Yeah.
Like what the word celebrant is.
Yeah, I saw you were looking at the photos, and that photo up there, that black and white one, that was taken at a place down in Wollacombe. And the owners, actually, I went to school with the husband, and I didn't know, because he didn't know either. So I'm filming at his venue, and he pops out and he goes, "Hello," and I went, "Hello," and they'd had a Lord of the Rings inspired wedding. Yeah. So they actually still had remnants because it's their land. They still had the little hobbit houses built into the side of the greenery. Yeah. And they got out all their pictures and it was wicked because they were reminiscing. You can't do that without one of you. You just can't. Now their photos are wicked. They're so them. Yeah. They're all, everyone, because they wanted it to be that way, everyone's dressed as Lord of the Rings characters. Yeah. There's some people that have gone, as people do, somebody's gone full hog and gone, and they're absolutely...
I love, if it reflects the personality of the couple, I love it. Yeah. And that's what my job is, to kind of extract what their personality is. And the biggest compliment for me is if one of the guests say, "How long have you known the couple for? Like, are they your friend?" And I'm like, no. Well, they are. They become friends because the wedding day is the saddest day for me because I have to say goodbye. Yeah. Although I'd say out of all of my weddings, I've only had one that I kind of wish I didn't take on because I work on energy and we did not vibe. Yeah. But I knew that at the wedding fair. But I was in a stage of yes to everything.
When you were early doors?
And I think I'm now in a position where I'm booked through to 2027. Nice. And I can say no confidently. Yeah. And I never imagined that was going to happen. So, but yeah, it's great. And it's the same with funerals. If I can capture the essence of that person, and because everything I do, I already read a script to the family or the couple. Yeah. On the day, I just have to inject as much feeling and friendliness into that. So it's actually, everyone's like, how do you stand there and do that? But it's well rehearsed and it's a performance. Yeah. Because all the hard work is the writing. Yeah. So when I meet a couple, when they book with me, I get their image, their couple selfie, create a crime scene and find out as much as I can about them. And then put it all together over time. It's creative writing. I'm not good at admin. I don't have a desk. I've got like a mess of a house. But it seems to work. And when the kids go to bed or wherever I can write, I do. And it ties into a beautiful story.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I think that nicely brings us to the end of part one. Join us very shortly for part two. Right, okay, welcome back to part two. There was a technical issue there where I simply forgot to press record on that camera. What a rookie error. Cool. So we were talking and we did talk about the fact that this now has an active YouTube channel. So you can find the Little Big Business podcast on YouTube, but naturally we are on all podcast providers. So Acast, Spotify being the main two, really, where you can either audibly listen or you can visually watch us. Either or, your choice. Yeah, cool. So obviously the first section, we barely use any of the notes on here, to be honest. And that's because obviously we do know each other extremely well. And naturally, we met, first of all, when we went to a show in Exeter, West Point. And we had a little corner where it was the three of us, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. And we've created our little trio of friends. And I'm hoping that they might come on, actually, because, and I won't name them yet so that I don't surprise, because that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying not to talk too much about certain suppliers if I know I'd quite like them on the pod, because then I can go, oh, there's no preemption of who's coming on, so that we don't, I suppose, so I don't lose anybody who wants to watch each episode. Yes. So they don't pick and choose, yeah? They go, well, we'll listen to it. Because I truly do think, actually, there's something, especially in this avenue, yeah, where people can learn, yeah? People can truly, truly, truly learn what it is that you do, and that it's not all, when then, you know, then not, celebrants are not all hippies who are like, let's kumbaya around the cornfield, it's not all like that.
I can be.
Yeah, we can do that. Chameleon, yes. So that can be done. But the point is that you can have a really run by the numbers ceremony, but just one that's personal, not one that is going down the route of, you are here in front of all these people, you've got married, kissed the bride, off you go. Yeah. And I do get that. They have to exist because naturally they, like you said, they might, and they do in the summer, they are bouncing from one to the other, to the other, to the other. Now, I will give you a live example. Halloween night, I filmed for a couple. The bride, because of malfunctions in the junction, was 20, 30 minutes late. Yeah, we're stood in this barn at Ash Barton for ages. Yeah, it nearly feels like she's done a runner. Yeah, now I know that she hadn't done, yes. Now, the point there was that even the registrars were saying, if this was in the summer, we would be gone.
It's happened to me when I married my partner. We already had a baby. She was 6 months old, and she got very emotional at the vows and screamed the bloody place down. And the only other person she'd settle with was my mum.
Yeah.
So my mum had to leave the ceremony, and the registrar, I asked if we could pause. The registrar said no. Yeah. And that, I'm not putting them down. I really don't want to, because I've met all of them and I love them. We've all got our place. Yeah, but
and obviously they are told what to say.
Absolutely.
So they can't deviate. They cannot deviate very much. They can make it a bit for them, but they can't deviate very much because they are, by law, they legally have to say these things.
Yeah, I had a wedding up at the tunnels in Ilfracombe. Yeah. It was a fantastic event. Every element that she could have booked, she did. She had artists, harpists, everything, videographer, photographer. Yeah. But she was an hour late. Yeah. And it was down to lots of different reasons, but because the guests were already seated, because of how the venue went, it was torrential rain outside, unfortunately. I had to do a lot of ad-lib. And we had a lot of fun in that time because the questions were asked, is she coming? But yeah, I'm there usually for like 4 hours on the day.
You've had to be a bit more like you. Yeah, absolutely. And be like, right, who's got a question for me?
Go away from the script.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But again, you know, that is the flavour. And look, I've not met many celebrants that you're all a bit bonkers, but I mean that in the nicest possible way, yeah? Because you are fun and you have life, yeah? And you are not pro-life per se, but just pro, yeah? Just you are just by nature of who you are. You're happy, smiley people.
We tend to be really happy because whether you disagree or not, because I'm sure you'll say the same, we've got the best job in the world. Like literally, I have to pinch myself every day. I get to do my school run for the children, be mummy, and be Celebrant and be, I like to think I'm one of those people that when I trained, I had to go with the best trainers. I put the most money, I waited and afforded the best training. So when it comes back to recommending suppliers, I'm not going to recommend the most expensive because money is irrelevant, but I'm going to recommend who I think are the best.
Yes.
And that's why these wedding fairs and networking and your group you've got up here is so important, because the bride and grooms go to fairs and it's a minefield and we're all salespeople jumping on them. And that's why I like this podcast, because it allows hopefully future clients or past clients to actually hear that we're real people and we care. We're not just like, this is our charge, this is what it feels like we're salespeople sometimes.
Yeah, I do know what you mean.
You have to try and grab them in that moment of time, don't you? So
I did one recently. I did, so I've talked about this previously, but I did, obviously I did Bath and West very recently. And across the road from me was a photographer who, and when I spoke to him, I heard another supplier said, he's a bit creepy, he's a bit jumpy, he's basically like pouncing on people. And but I got to know him on that day, and the reason why he was doing that is because he just moved back from, he'd been in, I think he said he'd been in Thailand, and he just recently moved back to Wales, and he was like, I have no business, so I'm jumping on everybody because I've got no business. I'm an established photographer but not established here. Yeah. Whereas I'm going in there as a established videographer and photographer, and I'm going the other side of the coin. I'm going, well, I am actually not here for 24. I'm here for 25 and beyond, because I don't need any for 24. And he's there and he's doing what he needs to do. He's scratching and clawing to.
There's a place for all of us. I wish I was more like I had a product, because my stand is just a backdrop of fluffy stuff. What I say is what I am. So I can't lay out all my photography or my cakes, and people decide in their head before they speak to me whether they want me or not. I have to get them. I'm not great at that, because I'm a bit more, if they want me, they'll come to me. I take my mum. She's my little secret weapon. You'll see her at an event we do, I'm sure. In fact, you would have met her at the first one. But she's my tea lady. She won't mind me saying that. She gets my tea. She gets my gluten-free pastries or whatever. But because she doesn't know anything about what I do, and I'll never let her know because she talks too much like me, she's a proper heart. She's kind of like a real Dorset, like lovely character. She jumps on people and says, have you ever heard of a Celebrant? And it's like a bit cringe, but it works. So she gets them. She like catches people for me and talks to them if I'm busy with another couple. And kind of, she's that icebreaker. But I struggle with jumping in front of people. But sometimes, I don't know if people think I'm selling candles because I've got a couple of candles on my stand, or I've got flowers. So I'm a service that they need to hear and see me.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yours is all about, when you go to shows, yours is all about education. About, look, whatever preconception you think this is, it's not that. It's not that.
And that's why my turnover's high, because if I speak to 10 couples, I'm really fortunate with the high percentage of bookings I get, because it's a no-brainer when you learn. I agree. When you learn what you can bring to the table, it's like, why would you do it any other way? Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Doesn't make any sense. But no, and I'm in a lucky spot, I suppose, where I do the opposite. So I most of the time, where I can, I don't even stand near my stand. I stand away. I go and talk to a fellow colleague, someone like that, because I appreciate that mine's very visual. So I want people to look at it and get the time to look at it and not feel stressed. The one thing I didn't like about this guy that I met is that he came to me. Obviously, I had a wedding on the Saturday, and on the Sunday, I've then gone. So my colleague Toby's gone. And the first thing he said to me is, "Oh, your guy on Saturday wasn't very salesy." And I'm like, and I basically was like, that's because he was told not to. Because we're not salesy. Because if people look at it and go, I like that, then I will engage with them. But I don't ever want somebody to feel like I've jumped down their throat. And I appreciate that someone might have said, you are this good at this, but it's still opinion and conjecture. And it's still very much you have to like it. You have to like it. If you like it and you want
me to potentially quote you and do something for you, then that's lovely. And if you don't, that's also cool.
But they like your footage because the quality.
Okay.
And then they speak to you and fall in love with you as the personality. And I think when you're booking a supplier, particularly what you do, because it's such a big deal,
Yeah.
you're basically capturing a memory.
Yeah.
They need to get on with you and trust you. And as much as I love lots of different videographers, and there's lots in the industry, you just have that extra level of energy.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important for bride, because there's lots of celebrants.
Yeah.
And I always, once I've educated them as to what we are, I always encourage them to find their fit.
Yeah.
Because I can't work with everyone.
No, of course.
I'm not going to match their energy or provide them what they need. But I think it comes down to personality. It's not just a product for you.
Absolutely. But then, and then that's FYI, that's exactly how it is for you. Yeah, in terms of how you become such a integral part of someone's day, and it is truly important that you vibe. Yeah. And I do think that now we're both at that point, which is wicked. The greatest power I have is the power of no. I had one at, I did an Art of Weddings down at Royal Cornwall Showground. And I had I'm going to call her quite an aggressive lady with a poor husband who was her husband-to-be, who actually apologised to me afterwards, who quite aggressively was asking me about what I bring to the table. And I chatted with her, and then at the end of the conversation went, I'm really sorry about this, but we don't work. Yeah. You're not feeling my vibe and I'm not feeling yours. Yeah. And that's cool. Don't worry about it. You'll find there's a worldy videography and photo team over there. Yeah. And obviously that was I Do Video and Photos. Friends of ours, brilliant at what they do. Yeah. If you don't like my vibe and I'm not too hot on yours either, go and see them. They might work for you perfectly. Yeah. And that's cool. The power of no, so that we know that,
it's a powerful position to be in.
Yeah. And it's nice.
I think I spend the best part of a week over the year of the build up to the wedding getting to know this couple. If I'm not feeling it, I can't, every word I say is bespoke. I can't write a template wedding. Yeah. So it's important. Yeah. I'd like to think I like a challenge. So if I've got a very frozen husband-to-be and he doesn't even make eye contact with me, I want them, because I'm like, you're going to be putty in my hands. Yeah. And I like someone who brings lots of confidence and banter so I can have a laugh with them. And in their ceremony, project that as well. So, but there's a lot, there's all sorts. We see all sorts.
Oh, the amount of, I had one, with a groom that was I had to have a meeting with him just to take the booking, because he had to know that my style was fly on the wall, because he was did not want it. And the way he was on his wedding day was completely the opposite. Yeah. And I say that is the biggest thing I would say about, from my experience in this industry, is that how you are on your wedding day, whatever preconceptions you've got, just lose them. Yeah, because you won't be that person, because you'll never look so good, so you'll never feel more confident. You're at your wedding day where you might just be a normal fly on the wall person, and now everybody's looking at you. Yeah, you're with everybody that you know and love. You're marrying the person of your dreams. All those things change who you are. Yeah, and they do, and I see it happen time and time
they
and
do.
Time again.
And it's important you have faith in your suppliers, because we're the professionals.
Yeah, we know what we're doing. We've got you. We have got you. Cool. Okay. So naturally, I talked about my start. So my start came from YouTube, being that I was a YouTuber. Somebody then, my channel grew. Somebody went, my sister likes your stuff on YouTube, is too embarrassed to ask, would you shoot her wedding? I went, I have no idea. I've never shot a wedding in my life, but I did it dirt cheap. Loved it. Brilliant. Haven't looked back since. Where did you start?
I started because I didn't even know what Celebrant was, and actually unknowingly went to a few funerals that were Celebrant led, but just assumed they were the other kind. I wasn't really sure. I didn't know the terms. My best friend in the whole world, Sid, passed away when he was 100. The word legend can only go to him. He's just my everything. And he still inspires me daily, and he's been gone 5 years. But he was my lifelong friend, and he was basically adopted by my family as granddad. He meant an awful lot to me. And when he was coming to the end of his life, he made it clear that he wanted me to arrange his funeral. Okay. And I worked with incredible funeral directors and the most wonderful celebrant who allowed me to do as much as I wanted. And that made me realise there was such a job. And her name is Helen, and she has Hillside Ceremonies, and she's probably the best funeral celebrant I've ever come across. Nice. She knows that she inspired me massively, and I see her now. We're very close geographically now, but she's awesome. And the way she spoke was with such feeling, and she really helped me. So when I decided to learn, that was kind of where the seed was sown. But I went for a period of time 5 years ago where my marriage broke down. Mm-hmm. And I knew that, because I'd worked with my partner for like 17 years and had babies and everything with him and raised his children, mm-hmm. I knew I had to cut my own path. So it was a big change, a big kind of crossroads in my life. And my ex-husband is still probably my greatest friend. Him and I raise our children in co-parenting styles so well. We are like acing it. Yeah. He's a very successful businessman, got an amazing partner now, and is the best daddy. Yeah. And he's allowed me and cheerleaded me to move, and not to be further away from him, but just to give the kids the best
he clearly appreciates that you are a human as well, and that if you are happy, you are intrinsically going to be happy around your children, which is, so he's thinking big picture. Yeah. If you're happy.
And I had a good work start with him. So we ran a very successful business together, and I knew how to interact with people. So he was like, you've got to do it. He was cheerleading me. So I went ahead full steam with his support and re-educated myself. Then we split houses officially, and I started properly on my own. So I trained with the Fellowship of Professional Celebrants, and they are the best. Mm-hmm. I put all my time and money into them, made sure I trained with the best, and met their amazing celebrant, Michelle, who trained me. And then on the funeral side, once I'd got the weddings cracked, I trained with a guy called James, who's a funeral director. And that training set me up to become a completely different person, because I'll cry at an advert. Or if Neighbours was on, I'm sure it's back on again now, but I was so pathetic. I cried at everything. And I think it's because I'm so giving, I didn't realise the power of my emotion. Yeah. But now, I don't know what I've become. Maybe like an iron lady. But I am. I cry when I need to, but it's very rare. Yeah. And it's scary how the right training can do that.
And I do think that, so obviously when you do so many of what we do, you do become desensitized, a little bit, in terms of, because you're being professional, the only time recently, I had a wedding last year, and the couple had 2 young boys, but the boys were both old enough that they could speak and were comfortable giving a speech. Now, the oldest son gave the most beautiful speech about his dad. Now, I have a little boy, and the photographer on the day, she's got a little boy, and we both were crying, because it was so nice, because you don't see... At wedding days, this is something I put across to a lot of people, because a lot of people come to me saying, can you have an overlay video where basically the audio of the vows or the audio of the speeches overlay the video? Now, I say there's a problem there, because who speaks about the groom? Nobody speaks about the groom. You get a passing comment from the dad to say, welcome to the family. A bridesmaid or a best man, they talk about him, but they don't talk about him glow. Always talk about him glow in terms of maybe rip him for his past life beforehand, yes? So I say there's a caveat there. Now, it filled the room, The room was captivated. I've never seen a speech that had so much attention, because it had every person in the room was crying with this little boy opening up about his dad. Yeah, it was lovely. Yeah, and but that is not common. That's not common for me.
That would break the best of us. And I have to admit, I've never led an infant funeral, and I don't think I'm ready to or strong enough to yet. But I've been told by colleagues that actually I'd be the best person because I'm a mum, and I can relate. But it's too raw for me. I couldn't go there. Yeah. So, but yeah, I think what happened. So, my mum's auntie passed away. She's a really good. She's a dear member of our family, and I was asked to do her ceremony, her funeral, and I nearly said no because every single person that was sat in front of me that were grieving were either people I knew or were related to. So I thought, if I can do that funeral, I'm invincible.
Yeah.
And I'd done it, and my mum was like, Beck, you didn't cry. Like, nothing got me. And I was like, I was just put my celebrant hat on. And although in the reflection music before the committal, I looked at the coffin and I knew who was in there.
Yeah.
That got me, but I was professional enough. Yeah. And that's only down to my training.
Of course.
That had to be taught. That wasn't something I naturally had.
Yeah. Just to ever so slightly remove yourself in terms of that you are involved in the process. You love it. Yeah. I love it when I'm filming and photographing for couples. I do get invested in their day, but not to a point that I'm so proud of them. I'm so happy for them. I love the fact that they've put their faith in me, because I'll never lose sight of that. You know, the fact that we've said just off camera slightly, haven't we, just now, a moment ago, that, and I'll say it again, I could be sat behind someone else's desk doing work for somebody else, paying for their holiday. I'm not. I'm sat here with you doing a podcast. We had a lovely coffee this morning. We're going to go for some nice lunch shortly. Yeah. Banging. Yeah. Just.
So you can remove yourself from, I mean, I was taught to say it's not my grief, but that day it was my grief because she was my great aunt. But I was strong enough to know that I was there to do a service. Funerals you can't get wrong. You get one attempt. Nor can you with weddings, but I can't get names wrong or anything like that. So it's another level. But everything I say is pre-practiced. Yeah. It's not as we are now. No, of course. Like, not as polished. Yeah,
we're just having a conversation, aren't we? Just talking about multiple things we've already talked about, but we're talking about it for your benefit. Who knew? Cool, okay. Right. Let's talk about, my support network 100% is my wife, my child, my parents-in-law, and a few colleagues that I know I can lean on, and that I know, because obviously there's a few things that we talked about that I won't say on here because that'll ruin some surprises, but there are a few people that this year alone have been cheerleading for me like crazy, and it does not go unnoticed. Yeah. Because the fact that someone else out there is actively going, this person will do the job you are looking for at the standard that you want. Yeah, and that weight of someone else saying that about you is lovely. Yeah, and it is nice. Look, I work in a no business. Yeah, that as busy as I am, it takes a lot of inquiries to get the ones that want you, because certain people want certain things. And I've had one recently actually where I would say I avoided a red flag. Yeah, because I had one where somebody was quite rude. Yeah, and I'm actually thinking, I've actually dodged a bullet there. Yeah. And why is it when 10 people can tell you you're awesome, but one person tells you you're not? And it's like, why do you hold on to that one? Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Yeah. But so your support network, obviously you've got a couple of lovely little girlies.
My girls, they're number one, obviously. So Olivia's 12. She's in secondary school. She is probably going to be Prime Minister one day. She's one of those kids, she takes herself so seriously, but she's a people pleaser. But she backs it up. She's incredibly intelligent. Her banter's off the scale. She will always come back with something far better than what I can say to her.
Sass, just like mum, absolutely.
Yeah, but more so, it really annoys me. But a lot of hard work went into raising her. She was my firstborn, and the world stopped. I must mention, I've got 2 bonus children. I've got Edward, who's 24, and Emily, who's 21. And they are everything. Cool. Nice. They taught me what it was to be a mum. Yeah. And I was allowed to be a massive part of their life. They're still... Well, Emily won't let me call her stepdaughter. She's my best friend. So we've got an amazing relationship. So Olivia's awesome, argues with me lots, but also asks me lots about my business and is very interested in what I do. She actually came to a funeral for my great aunt, and she was so proud of me. I was nervous to be in front of her because she's my children are my biggest critics. Penelope, my 8-year-old. Basically, Olivia's going to be a lawyer, according to her. Penny's probably going to be a stripper in Las Vegas. They're so opposite. They're like rascals and legends in equal measure. But Nell thinks the world's a joke, and that everyone's here to serve her and make her laugh. If she could be naked every minute of every day, she would be. But what she does is love me to the point where she's nearly a part of me. She's almost absorbed into me. She can't get enough of touching, feeling me, and telling me how amazing I am. So as a single mum, I get all the love I need from those 2. They're just everything. They support me without knowing it, because when I've had a hard day, if I've been meeting with bereaved families, they give me that love and energy that I need to top me up. So them first, mum and dad, without a doubt. And I thought about what I was going to say, and I didn't want to talk too much about my parents because I was conscious of your parents. And I felt sad for you.
Because obviously we have become proper friends, haven't we? Yeah. We are friends now, aren't we? I'm conscious that I don't want... No. I'm more than happy to talk about it, and it's not a problem. But yeah, obviously we have spoken to great depths at wedding shows. Whilst we're not got nothing else better to do, about my trials and tribulations, and why, because I'm the product of a step parent family, and he's the only parent I have that if he just apologised, he could come back in. Wow. Yeah, if he apologised, he could come back in. So he's missing out on so much. He's If he just apologised for something, he'd be welcome in with open arms. He'd be the only one. It's quite awkward, actually. We haven't seen each other for a little while. I did a wedding very recently where my auntie of my biological father was at the wedding. Wow. And she knew who I was. And she pulled me to one side. And she said a few things, and I said a few things, and I was like, I appreciate this. Yeah. And I just said, I appreciate this, because you didn't need to do that. But then she asked me to be the videographer on her son's wedding. Wow. And I politely said, sorry, that's... My biological father could be at that wedding. He probably will be. Yeah. I've never said a word to him. No. That's even though it doesn't bother me, but it's more that can't be the way that I meet him. No. It can't be the way that I can't go to a wedding where basically I'm related to all you lot and I don't know any of you. Yeah, and I can't fake that. That's what I always say about it's the conflict I have with my mother. That I can't fake what I don't feel. Yeah? In terms of, I can't fake what I don't feel. I don't feel a certain way towards you, and I shouldn't have to.
But you, because of how passionate you are, which is crazy with your story, that you are the person you are.
Yeah.
The fact that no one would believe that because of how you are. But the fact that you use the people that you've chosen in your inner circle, your wife, your boy, your friends, and your wife's parents, your in-laws, you've chosen them to be your key people, your family. I know you appreciate that even though I had a very different upbringing to you, you still are happy that I had that.
Yeah.
You're not bitter and begrudging of other people's family unit, but it makes you even more powerful.
Cool.
And I hope for yours and your boy's sake that there's some bridges you can build in the future.
Yeah.
But who knows?
Absolutely.
But you've got to a point where you don't need that, and you've got your people.
When he was born, I did think about the idea that could I bridge that gap but not for me, for him. But then I thought the only way that works is if I drop him, or I wouldn't even be the dropping. My wife would drop him with my parents, and he would spend time with them. And then I thought, no. The anxiety that would cause me, and the fact that they haven't earned the right. No. They haven't earned the right. And there's a lesson to be learned. Yeah, that my boy, who is adored, is lucky. He is a lucky boy. Like you're talking about your daughters with your ex-partner, you are not together, but you could not say more glowing things about.
Yeah. And our girls know we're best friends.
Exactly.
And that's really important.
It's so healthy. It's so impressive. Yeah, so impressive.
Everyone says you're the product of your parents' influence. So I was told that I had to stay with my partner for the children's sake so many times. And in my head, I was like, no, because they're seeing us at our worst. We weren't that bad, don't get me wrong. It wasn't like they were aware of that.
No, of course.
But silently, I wasn't my best version. So I was saying, I knew that when I was going to leave my partner, unless I could be his best friend, I'd rather have stayed with him in an unhappy marriage. But my girls thank me, and they're very aware from their friendship groups that it's not always the case. But my mum and dad gave me and my two big brothers the best childhood. I'm really proud, but also quite smug about that, because I know how hard it is. But they gave me a very country upbringing. My only ambition was set from Sid, my best mate. He was like, this is the world. This is what you can do. Mum and dad were very homely and content, and they still are. And my dad is my hero. If I can find a man anything like him. So the bar's set so high, no wonder I'm single, it's my dad's fault. He's awesome. He gets emotional at everything. It cracks me up. Even though I've probably disappointed them the most out of the 3 children, they're just awesome. They're always there. They're consistent. My girls flipping adore them. I've got 2 brothers, both amazing, so opposite in character. Both big brothers, one of them's gone through hell in the last 5 years, and he still has a smile from ear to ear, health and other reasons, but he always asks me how I'm doing and always wants to know how he can help me. So support network is the best, and that's partly because I've moved back into the heart of it. When I was in Exeter, I was distanced, and no matter how close you are to someone, distance matters, doesn't it?
Of course.
So absolutely. I'm right in the heart of it. But yeah, that's my support network. The industry itself support me because of positive suppliers like yourself. And I've got a good group of friends who are sharing my stuff and making sure I'm okay and staying grounded. And so support and inspiration comes mainly from those people.
Because when I say, obviously, that when we chatted and it just popped into my head, I'd like to, when I have a studio, run a podcast. And I'm there going, and then I'm there thinking, right, why? Why do I run a podcast? And then we chat about it and I'm going, you are the reason. Because you do this awesome thing that nobody knows about. So it's like, right, let's get a platform where we can share your story, share what you do, share how awesome you are. And that is why I wanted to do this podcast. And not just because I can't shut up and and just talk to death.
But it's interesting, and I listen to podcasts, and I know you do, and you only get to really hear what someone does when they're in a conversation mode, not in a sales mode. So this is like great for the industry. It's amazing what you're doing.
And look, I'm transparent. You ask the question, I give the answer. Yeah, like if you really want to know what it's like behind the curtain, I'll give you a little peek, no problem. But most people don't want to know that. They don't want to know what goes. They just want to know what they want to know the end result. They want to know how easy it's going to be on the day. But obviously this gives them a platform to be able to do that.
You give a little bit and then let them lead as to what, because every couple's different, aren't they? And it's the same with funerals. I know that sometimes they're going to give me a world of information about the person who's passed, and I use a dictaphone and a digital notebook, so I'm constantly writing and listening. But usually it's a group of people who are all telling me stories at once, so it's very confusing. So my dictaphone helps, but the more information I can get, whether it's a wedding or a funeral, the better, because I've got more material to work with. Same with a wedding for you. The more they give you in terms of what's happening. But sometimes I get people who are at their most vulnerable and so sad, they don't want to talk about the life of the person, and then that person's not represented properly. So my kind of future is leaning towards trying to write eulogies for people whilst they're living. Okay. Which is different. Yeah. But we're very taboo about death. So I think as a nation we find it quite hard to still talk about. It's a natural process that happens to all of us. Americans are very good at it, but I would like to think at the moment the gatekeepers to the funeral industry for me are the funeral directors. Yes. And I'm making a lot of time now to get to know them and build relationships. Yeah. But unless they recommend me to a family, the family haven't got a clue who I am, because I can only advertise as much as I can. Yes. I've still got my limits. Yes. But talking about death's really important, not just if you're dying, but lots of people are planning their funerals these days. Of course.
Who do I want to, when I'm gone, who has touched me in a way that I want to tell them things that I maybe wouldn't tell them I wouldn't tell them to their face, because it's awkward for most people. 99% of the world, it's bloody awkward to say to somebody, I feel this way about you. When I think about you like this. Yeah. And actually when you write it down and tell them when you're gone, when you don't have to be embarrassed about it, it can be such an important thing to tell people, I'm good. I had a great ride because of you, and you're going to be good as well, because we've done all these things together that have made, we had a great ride, but time's up.
And I think because I work with people who are talking about the person who's passed, we're all talking about the person who's died, not about the effect that the people who are mourning them had on them. Yeah. So if one of my new services is going to be, come and write your eulogy with me. Yeah. Let's talk about the dates, the achievements, all the boring things that your loved ones don't want to have to find out after you've passed. Yeah. But if they don't tell me that, then it gives me less, I'm not going to be able to do a good funeral for them. So I just think there's definitely a niche area there where I probably shouldn't be saying this out loud now, but I really, really want to connect with people, not just who are in care homes or hospices, but healthy people who can, for a small fee, I write them a professional eulogy. They get that discounted off their funeral if they use me. Yes. But if not, pass it to your FD or your next of kin, so that when the time comes, they don't have to spend hours going through paperwork. Yeah. And the wishes of your day, your final day to say farewell, can be kept. Yeah. But lots of people are doing direct cremations, which then takes away the grieving process for the people left behind, which is sad, because they don't want a vicar talking about God the whole time. Yes. And forgiveness of sins. They may not have wanted that in their lives.
No one in this room is religious.
Exactly. and it is.
He wasn't religious. She wasn't religious. We're not religious. What are we doing now?
So when you can take that element out and talk properly, I get a 25-minute time slot, and that's with hymns and everything in. So it's hard, but it's so important for the last farewell to get the right words.
Yeah.
And that's why I think the industry is booming, and I know that's awful for everyone. It's not a dying industry, haha. But I'm always going to be busy doing funerals, but I want to go to the next level and offer a slightly different service. So that's, and like with memorials or anything like that. So I do vow renewals and things like that. So I might as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Why not? Cool. I think that nicely brings us to the end of part 2. So join us shortly for part 3. Cool. Okay, welcome back to part 3 of the Little Big Business podcast. We are getting towards the end now, but I do think that this episode has been definitely the most fluid so far. Yeah, because we can just talk for England, can't we? We've got this. Obviously, we have talked a little bit off camera about when I have previously opened up about my family and the good side, the bad side, and all that sort of jazz. But we won't go into that for you. Maybe another time. But yeah, I think that naturally, just with that, like we were saying, yeah, that anything that's happened to me in the past has ever done is it's just made me that little bit stronger, and it has just motivated me and put a little bit of fire in the belly. Exactly. And just gone, I just don't want certain things, and I won't have it. Yeah, I won't have it. I won't have the expectations. The one that I will talk about that I did hit home is, me and my wife have taken in multiple strays in our house because we are those people. One of those strays was my auntie and my cousin, who, just because of a situation with a house, they were going to be homeless. No one else decided that they would help out, so I went, we have space. Come on in. And my auntie basically said to me that I shouldn't be who I am, and that because of what my parents are, and that's the ticket. Yeah, that in terms of, you're damn right. You're damn right I'm not the product of the life I should have.
I think, sorry to interrupt,
No.
I was driving through a town the other day in Somerset, and I saw a very young girl, probably around 14, maybe younger, being pinned up against a police car, and she was kicking the policeman to try and get out. That scared me as a mum. Yeah. But what it made me realise is our parents are responsible for us up to the age of 18. Mm-hmm. And if we misbehave in that time, I blame the parents. Yeah. That is their fault because of how they're allowing our children to behave. Yeah. After 18, you don't have the right to say, but I had a bad start, I can't be that person. Yeah. You've totally been proof of that to me, because you're like, it doesn't matter what my past is. I am the best I can be, the best version of me. You've found your wife who brings out that version of you. You've created life. Like, that is enough of a reason. Yeah. For me, I've been fortunate. I've had the best start and I've got the support. Mm-hmm. And I don't have a partner, but my driving motivation every day, I had someone in my early years, my first boss, Emily, who was amazing, and I wanted to be her. Mm-hmm. She's shown me, my mum and dad were everything, but I didn't want to turn into them. Yes. I wanted to turn into this lady, Emily, who was the best at her job. She was successful, beautiful, and ambitious. And she's still a dear friend. She's mad as a box of frogs, but she's awesome. And she made me realise I could be more. Yeah. Mum and dad didn't make me want less, but they were just content with happy, simple life. But what you've done is you wrote your own rules. You're not a product of your childhood. Yeah. And that makes you stronger than most people, but also your wife and son should be prouder of you, because the only thing I've got, the only reason I do this every day and wake up every day is because my kids, I want them to be proud of mummy. Yeah. That's all I want.
Yeah.
Then I've won. I don't care if I live in a 4-bedroom house that's detached or a mid-terrace 1-bed.
Yeah.
As long as they're happy and they've been fed and they're
Yeah.
clean. The teenagers not so clean. But if they're proud of me and they talk at school about their mummy, then I've won.
Well, my neighbour, her daughter is getting married, and she's reached out about potentially, first initially about video, but now she wants to potentially do both. And basically the mum who lives next door to us, she jumped out, she came bounding out the back garden, was like, Danny, because I've done some stuff for her son and stuff, who wants to get into photography, and helped him out and stuff. And we're good friends. And she came bounding out and was like, Abby told me to ask you this. And I'm like, she's one step ahead of you. She's done it already. She's reached out independently. And and then obviously she didn't know what I've recently won. And I'm like, who knew that apparently the best in the world lives in this little 3-bed town, this three bedroom house in this estate. Yeah. Because I don't care. Yeah, I like it. I love it. It props me up, and I do care. I care about the fact that I've won them from point of that my work is good enough that I've won them, but I don't care about them in terms of that they make me something I'm not. I don't. I'm never going to turn, like when you said you challenged me on who is the best, and I'm like I cannot say me.
They don't define who you are as a photographer, but they're a credit to who you are.
Yes.
And I think you're never going to realise that because you've naturally been in a position where you've always thought you were going to be less.
Maybe.
And you're actually winning because you've got the love and support of your family.
Yeah.
And anyone who meets you comes on board with that. So I think, I don't want to blow too much smoke.
No.
I'm like very conscious.
Not.
But
Absolutely
I don't know. I just think it's really important, and you're human, and you're championing other small businesses by doing this podcast. You're letting your local community know that you're giving back to them because you're doing this.
Yeah.
We're of service,
Yeah.
and we're giving something back. So yes, we're taking money, and we're priced accordingly.
Yes.
And you're paying more because you're getting the best.
Because you add value.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you add value. Anything, you go to a shop, you buy something, it has a value, you're happy to pay it. That idea of value, Mark in episode 1, he said his biggest bugbear was expensive. And he's like, what on earth are you talking about? Yeah, and he didn't say that, but that's kind of the route that he's going down in terms of what do you mean it's expensive? It's not expensive, it has value. Yes. Why would you pay? And that's cool. It's cool that people are out there that, in my field, there are photographers and videographers that are a lot less expensive than me. There are videographers and photographers who are a lot more expensive than me. I know some that are 2 to 3 times my price. And there's a reason for everybody. Yeah. Some people will book that client because of their price point.
And assume.
Yeah. But also, I will caveat that with the work is bloody good. They're really good. Yeah. So I'm not saying they shouldn't charge that rate.
But you've got all these awards. That sounded bad. You've got all these amazing awards, and your product is good. We've seen that. We know that. You're fully booked for the next however long. You are worth more, but you're genuine. You're pricing yourself so that you stay within the local community. Yeah. I've worked with suppliers that price themselves out of Devon because they're catering to London clients who are coming to Devon to get married. Yeah. You're integral to the community around you. And so you're an award-winning photographer, videographer who lives in Barnstaple. Is that okay to say you live in Barnstaple? Who lives in Barnstaple, which is basically the back end. Like, you're so out on a leg here.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But that doesn't limit you to how far, obviously, geographically maybe, but not in your reputation. No. So
the fact that that's the hope, that I can do it to a point that it needs to be a certain price point because of that, and also it obviously has to. I can't physically do 100 weddings a year it would kill me.
And then if you get someone else, they're not you.
Yeah.
So that's the boat I'm in.
It would kill me. Now I do have 2 disciples now, one that goes out solo and one that only solely works with me. But that's because video is so different to photography. Video, you can have somebody else video because I do the edit and that's more important. Photography, you can't be me. Yeah. It's not possible. So it has to be me. But yeah, no, 100%. I just want it to be accessible. I want it to be high enough that that you know that the quality is there by, in terms of the price point not being so low that it makes you go, why is he 200 quid when he's this? That doesn't marry up. Because naturally, I would use a football analogy. I now win awards that are in the Champions League. I don't win the League 2 playoff. Yeah, I don't win those things. So there has to be a price associated with that, but at the same time, not so unattainable that, yes, the beautiful people of this area can't also have me if they want me. Yeah, that I then go, they go, the work is there, the quality is there, we want you. And I go, cool, $5,000 please. Yeah, and they go, well, that's not too much more than I'm paying for my whole wedding.
And I don't mean to say people around here can't afford London prices, but the facts are the services you and I offer are double, if not 4 times the price, just because of that assumption.
I'm now starting to do weddings in that area and I'm getting them because my start point is 3-4 times lower than a videographer or photographer in London. And of course they are, because
same quality.
We don't have the overlays.
Exactly.
I don't have to live in London, so I don't have to pay those prices.
And I know I'm probably the more expensive of the celebrants that I'm local to, but I've calculated my fees based on what I put in. And there's such a difference through the different celebrants in the package we offer. I've got one set fee, I cover Bristol down to Land's End, and then everything in between. So
awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. Wicked.
What a wonderful industry we work in.
Yeah, absolutely. We do travel, don't we? Jesus Christ, we travel.
It took me 2 hours to get here today.
Yeah.
And it was torrential rain when I left Dorset. So I was like, I hope you appreciate this.
Damn right. You're damn right I do. No, I love it. Because like I said, I think this podcast was made for someone like you.
Yeah. It's cool.
Get the word out there. Get you more exposure. Because you don't need being fluffed. You don't need that. No. But what you do need is, this is what we do. Yeah. Not this is who I am and I'm awesome at it. It's purely that people don't quite understand.
It's just about talking about celebrant-led weddings and funerals.
What is different? What is unique? What makes you and what you do? Yeah. That cool. That awesome. Why you are smashing it.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Cool. Right, guys, I think that probably brings us to the end of the podcast. Guys, say a massive thank you, hopefully, to my wonderful guest. I'm so buzzed that I got you on. Because like I said, I want on this podcast to have a complete blend of fully established, not established, local, not local. Yeah. And I'm so pleased that you were so willing and keen to come all this way.
Thank you for asking.
No,
it's been
absolutely.
Such a pleasure.
So cool. So good.
We're going to go and have a lovely lunch now, aren't we?
Absolutely. Yeah, damn right we are. Absolutely. Let's go and get some food. Right, guys. Awesome. Thank you again if you have listened or watched this podcast. I know that a lot of people say that podcasts are one that a lot of people don't get beyond the first couple of episodes. Well, we're in episode 3 now. I've got an epic guest booked already for next week, and I've got a whole host of wonderful suppliers that are contacting me going, we love it, we love it, we love it, we want to be on. So you're all on. I just got to get you all booked in the diary and get you all sorted. Guys, so good. Love it. Episode 3 over and out.